Tonight, truce extended. The deal between Israel and Hamas will continue for at least 2 more days.
I want the ceasefire to continue.
Hostages return home with more Palestinians freed.
That means there's a chance for my family to stay alive.
And an arrest in a possible hate crime in Vermont. A 12-year-old boy in BC dies by suicide after being exploited by online predators. Also, the latest on a deadly Salmonella outbreak tied to a popular fruit. Plus, Alberta's unprecedented move in a fight against Ottawa.
They cannot use their jurisdiction to trample on ours.
And a sugar shortage.
It has a larger impact on all of us, and especially a little shop like this.
The strike leaving a bitter taste ahead of the holidays.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. Dawn is bringing the promise of more jubilant reunions in a region ravaged by weeks of war. Israel and Hamas have agreed to extend their temporary truce. CTV's Heather Wright on what we know about the latest hostages and detainees who were freed.
3-year-old twins Yuli and Emma Cuneo are carried down a street in southern Gaza to a waiting van. In total, 11 hostages were handed over by Hamas to the Red Cross this afternoon. While in Bitunia, in the occupied West Bank, a crowd gathered around a bus cheering as 33 Palestinians, 30 children and 3 women were released from Israeli jails, including 16-year-old Nafuz Hamad. I can't express my joy, she says, but I also have pain. Today marked day 4 of a fragile ceasefire that will last until at least day 6, after both sides agreed to extend the pause in fighting. In Khan Yunis, a long line for flour, many Gazans living day by day, uncertain about the future. We want to go back to our homes, this woman says. We don't want war at all. Soon there will be rain. Where are we going to stay? Extending the truce will also allow more aid to flow into Gaza. Over the weekend, humanitarian organizations have been able to distribute aid throughout the enclave.
The last few days have really given us an opportunity to get to some of the communities in the north, but it's really not enough. What we need is a long-term ceasefire.
As part of the 2-day extension, Israel says it has approved 50 additional Palestinians to be released, contingent on more hostages being freed from Gaza. In total, Qatar says 150 Palestinians and 69 Israeli hostages have been exchanged over the last 4 days, including 25-year-old Roni Kravoy, whose family says was able to escape after the building he was being held in collapsed. He was on the run in Gaza for 4 days, recaptured and released yesterday, as was 4-year-old Abigail Eden, who was taken from kibbutz Kfar Aza after her parents were killed on October 7th. I couldn't believe it until I saw her grandfather says, adding the happiness is mixed with sadness that her parents are both gone.
Israel is once again calling for the Red Cross to have access to the hostages that remain in Gaza. As officials say, an 84-year-old woman released yesterday is now fighting for her life after being without medication for more than 50 days. Omar.
All right, Heather, thank you. Many of the Palestinian prisoners Israel is holding don't even know what their alleged crimes are. Of the more than 7,000 in custody, more than 2,000 are in, quote, administrative detention, meaning they are being held indefinitely without charges. Human rights groups say in addition to a lack of due process, detainees face abuse and torture. Save the Children estimates that 10,000 Palestinian children have been held in the Israeli military detention system in the past 2 decades, most of them allegedly for stone throwing, which carries a penalty of up to 20 years in prison. Tech billionaire Elon Musk visited Israel today after accusations he and his social media platform X are promoting anti-Semitism. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Musk walked through the Israeli kibbutz where dozens were killed in the October 7th Hamas attacks. In a chat with Netanyahu on X later, Musk said, quote, propaganda must stop, but offered no concrete plan. And today, the mayor of Paris, the host city for the 2024 Summer Olympics, said she is quitting X. The politician, who has 1.5 million followers, called it, quote, a gigantic global sewer. An alarming number of anti-Semitic incidents has Montreal's Jewish community on edge, and police investigating a firebomb. A Molotov cocktail was allegedly thrown at a community center just hours after members met to talk about recent fire bombings.
Am I fearful? I'm walking around and I continue to walk with my kippah showing. I'm not going to change that. We believe that those who are trying to instill fear, trying to instill terror, need to have their, shall we say, operations brought to a halt.
Damage to the empty building was minor and no injuries were reported. Since October 7th, Montreal police have handled 324 hate incidents targeting Jews and Muslims, more than all of last year. The surge is also apparent in the United States, where the man accused of shooting 3 Palestinian men in a suspected hate crime appeared in court today. CTV's Washington bureau chief Joy Malbin on the attack.
Overnight, police went door to door, arresting a man alleged to have shot 3 college students of Palestinian descent. They had spent their Thanksgiving break in Burlington, Vermont with relatives. Out for a stroll, police say they were speaking English and Arabic and wearing traditional Palestinian scarves when a man armed with a pistol walked up to them without saying a word and started shooting.
Are you Jason Eaton?
Yes.
Jason Eaton appeared from jail on video, charged with 3 counts of attempted murder. He pleaded not guilty.
The ATF agents were greeted by a man with his palms up at waist height and stated something to the effect of, "I've been waiting for you."
Police found a gun in his home, connecting him to the shooting that's now being investigated as a hate crime.
I believe the families fear that this was motivated by hate, that these young men were targeted because they were Arabs.
The men who grew up in the West Bank will recover, but Hashim Aratani has a bullet embedded in his spine. His mother says he may not walk again.
And Ali said, no, just leave him there. It's safer. And he was in Burlington, and my husband is just devastated by the fact that he couldn't protect his son.
As America deals with a sharp surge in threats and violence against Jewish and Muslim people since the war began, it seems that no place is safe anymore.
We always thought that sending him here would be the right decision. We feel somehow betrayed in that decision here.
President Joe Biden calls the shootings horrifying, and though police have no motive yet, the state attorney says there's no doubt that this was a hateful act. Omar?
All right, Joy, thank you for this tonight. A First Nation community in Manitoba is in mourning for 2 sisters who were among 4 people killed in a shooting in downtown Winnipeg early Sunday morning.
It's like a real shock to the community, right? It's even to myself that when I've heard about it.
2 people died at the scene, 2 others in hospital. A 5th victim is still in critical condition. Police say all of the people involved in the incident were known to them. No word on a possible motive. A community near Toronto is grieving tonight after a deadly weekend crash on a highway that left 5 people dead.
It's unbelievably devastating because there are kids.
A woman and 4 Chinese international students between the ages of 15 to 17 were killed in a head-on collision on Saturday night near Huntsville, 3 hours north of Toronto. The cause of the crash is not yet known. RCMP and BC are warning parents about the dangers children face online. It follows the tragic death of a 12-year-old boy who took his own life after being harassed by an online predator. Police say he was the victim of sextortion. CTV's Sinjan Alexander reports.
Carson Cleland probably thought he could trust the person he met online, comfortable enough to share sexually suggestive photos. But police say he became a victim of sextortion, and on October 12th, he took his own life.
They're predators. They're online predators. They don't feel emotion, remorse, regret. All they want to do is obtain money.
The 12-year-old was being threatened, told that if he didn't send money, those compromising photos would be posted all over the internet.
These criminal networks have mastered how to get these kids roped in and then either get money out of them or the child is in complete terror.
The Canadian Centre for Child Protection is getting 50 reports of sextortion every week, all of them about kids. They argue it's time governments step in, tighten laws, and get tough with online platforms. Parents should absolutely talk to their children, but they warn it isn't nearly enough.
We've had enough of talking about tips. Let's get serious here. This isn't working. And we need to turn the page, because if this was working, we would have solved this decades ago.
BC's Attorney General has already warned social media companies they could be ordered to stop distribution of personal photos under the province's Intimate Images Protection Act.
I want to send a message to the kids that may be suffering in silence. You're not alone. Please go to a trusted adult, talk to somebody about it, seek out help.
Carson's parents are not to blame here at all. It's absolutely outrageous what parents have kind of been saddled with in this space.
Carson is described as a compassionate kid who had many friends. He was very tight with his family. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
An outbreak of Salmonella, likely caused by cantaloupes, is spreading on both sides of the border. In Canada, there have been more than 60 cases and 1 death. And as CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin reports, recalls on 2 brands are underway.
A healthy fruit is increasingly under the microscope for its link to illness. Cantaloupes contaminated with Salmonella are the target of the latest Public Health Agency warning. At least 63 cases have been recorded across 5 provinces in Canada. 17 people were sick enough to require hospitalization, and 1 died. The agency says more cases are likely because of 2 reasons.
The incubation period being up to 7 days, but also because there is a reporting delay.
Among those infected, 86-year-old Marilyn Wilcox, now recovering in hospital.
She was definitely having diarrhea. She was vomiting. She wasn't eating very much.
Doctors concluded she likely picked up the bacteria after eating cantaloupe, a daily staple of her breakfast. She's now responding well to antibiotics.
She's feeling so much better too. You can really see the color in her face, and she wants to return to bingo and all the activities and the games that they do at long-term care homes.
Experts say the rinds of cantaloupes are likely contaminated at the farm by the soil or irrigation water.
Once you make a cut and you push the salmonella from the rind down into the tissue, salmonella grows very well in that tissue.
To prevent other cases, some cantaloupes are being pulled off the shelves both here and in the U.S. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency issued a 4th warning this month, widening the recall to 2 brands. Malachita and Rudy cantaloupes sold in at least 9 provinces, but possibly across the country. And there are secondary recalls of other linked foods, including fruit trays. Experts say throw out these brands of cantaloupes and any that are not clearly identified.
We are seeing cantaloupe outbreaks become more common, so we do need more education for processors about best practices for keeping salmonella out of their fields.
And food safety experts say you should always scrub your cantaloupe using soap and water before cutting it, but also never buy one that's pierced or bruised. Omar.
All right, Geneviève, thank you. A strike at a BC sugar refinery is behind a shortage in Western Canada, and that's causing some grocers in Winnipeg to ration this sweet ingredient to 2 bags per customer. CTV's Manitoba Bureau Chief Jill Makashon on the bitter reality for bakers and businesses.
Across Western Canada, the sugar rush is real. Store shelves can't stay stocked, an inconvenience for holiday bakers, crucial for business owner chocolatier Constance Pop.
'Tis the season. Everyone's baking something at home. Even if you're not a great baker or you don't have a chocolate shop or a bake shop, people are using sugar this time of year. And so sugar is scarce.
White sugar, brown sugar, icing sugar, it has all become more difficult to find and more expensive since 138 workers at Rogers Sugar in Vancouver went on strike in late September. The BC plant is one of only 3 Rogers Sugar refineries in Canada, and it feeds the Western market.
We've actually agreed last week to sit down with a mediator and the company. We do that Thursday and Friday of this week.
Even if the refinery goes back online to full capacity soon, there is a building backlog sure to keep the sugar supply low for weeks to come. Lantic Inc. said in a statement, "We are fully committed to reaching a new collective bargaining agreement with our unionized staff in Vancouver. It also means negotiating an agreement that allows us to serve customer needs, meet growing demand, and position the Vancouver refinery for long-term health and future success for the benefit of all." This bakery sources mostly local ingredients, including the wheat for its cinnamon buns. But there are no options to buy local sugar in bulk in Manitoba.
During COVID, we become used to supply issues. All of us have. But yeah, this one was a little in our face because of the upcoming holiday season.
If the strike continues, Western businesses may have to buy sugar from Eastern Canada or the U.S. market, which will further drive up costs. Omar.
All right, Jill, thanks. Coming up, bargain hunters scope out cyber sales.
I don't know what's better, whether it's Black Friday or Cyber Monday.
Shoppers make the most of digital deals despite inflation. Plus, the talking Christmas tree competing with Santa Claus for favorite holiday hero. Alberta's fight with the federal government intensified today after the province's premier invoked the Sovereignty Act for the first time. As Bureau Chief Bill Fortier reports, the tension is over a timeline over clean electricity rules.
A power struggle over power policy has now sparked unprecedented action by Alberta's government.
I rise to give oral notice of Government Motion 16.
The province introducing a motion to use the controversial Sovereignty Act for the first time since it was enacted nearly a year ago.
We control the electricity grid. The Constitution says so.
The motion is designed to challenge the draft version of Ottawa's clean energy regulations, which call for a net zero electrical grid by 2035, meaning essentially no emissions. Alberta has argued it's not possible until 2050 because of the province's heavy reliance on natural gas.
If we don't have enough natural gas baseload power in the coming years, we will have brownouts and blackouts in the dead of winter and in the hottest days of summer.
If passed, the motion would direct all provincial agencies and organizations to the extent legally permissible, refrain from recognizing the constitutional validity of the federal initiative, from enforcing or aiding in the enforcement of the federal initiative.
We have to work together, not against each other.
The federal environment minister insists the plan will be flexible for provinces like Alberta.
The draft regulations are exactly that, draft regulations, because we want to have conversations.
The so-called Sovereignty Act is an illegal stunt. Unfortunately, it is a stunt with real-world consequences.
Political observers say Alberta's strong words are more political theater than a true legal challenge at this point.
It's actually largely symbolic, particularly because we don't know what these regulations are going to be yet.
Whether she's on the side of constitutional law or not, I doubt, but she clearly is on the side of public opinion.
The environment minister also confirmed today Ottawa is sticking to that 2035 net zero date. So unless the two sides can find common ground elsewhere, this fight could end up in a courtroom. Bill Fortier, CTV News, Edmonton.
Still ahead, the hunt for digital deals. How shoppers are trying to stretch every dollar this Cyber Monday. Bargain hunters were on the hunt for the best prices today as many Canadians embraced Cyber Monday sales. CTV's Sarah Plowman has more on the quest for digital deals.
From cafes to malls, sales are in full swing.
And we got a Fast and Furious car set.
As Black Friday hangs around and Cyber Monday shows up.
Great deals. I don't know what's better, whether it's Black Friday or Cyber Monday.
Here, studies shifted to studying prices.
We're looking for cheap flights, 30% off, so pretty good.
Despite inflation, data suggests more Canadians than ever are looking to spend. A survey by Retail Council of Canada says 37% of Canadians plan to shop Cyber Monday, nearly double the number last year.
It's actually parallel to more people wanting to seek out those deals and those sales and those promotions.
Shopify's merchants reported more than $4 billion in sales Black Friday, up 22% from last year.
So Shopify is gaining share from online sales
which is significantly still gaining share from overall retail.
And shops are getting a bite too.
Sales have been really good. It was a good Black Friday event.
This retail analyst recommends to keep a budget, but also keep in mind items may sell out.
I recommend that if you really see an item and it's a great price, strike now while the iron's hot.
The expectation is that sales will fade later this week, but then pick up again around Super Saturday. That's the last Saturday before Christmas. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
And another annual tradition took place today with the word of the year. According to Merriam-Webster, authentic is the word of 2023, defined as true to one's own personality. In a time of deep fakes and artificial intelligence, the dictionary maker says searches for authentic were consistent throughout the year. After the break, keeping it real with a maritime tradition. A different kind of Christmas star makes a comeback. Well, just in time for the holiday season, a magical maritime tradition is returning to the East Coast. Meet Woody, the talking Christmas tree, who's back in business at a busy mall in Nova Scotia. CTV's Atlantic Bureau Chief Chris Najikatape on the unique Christmas display.
See you later.
Move over, Santa Claus. You're not the only Father Christmas in town.
Woody himself has been here for years, and he is tradition.
For the third year in a row, the larger-than-life Woody the Talking Christmas Tree has been delighting visitors, young and old, after a 15-year hiatus.
We wanted to see Woody.
It's crazy that he can talk.
From mid-November to December 23rd, Woody wakes up from his daily slumber every day at noon.
Good morning, everybody.
With eager visitors waiting in line to strike up a conversation.
I asked him if he watched the movie Toy Story. I asked him what his favorite cookie is.
While others just want to make him laugh.
Why did the cookie went to the doctor?
Why?
Because he wasn't crumbling well.
Over the years, Woody has undergone 3 facelifts, with staff hard at work behind the scenes to make his return to the mall extra special.
Woody is magical because he can hear you and he can see you. So your conversation with Woody is very unique and it's quite intimate. It's just between the two of you.
Upon his return, Woody then rose to fame in multiple countries, including in the US, where he made an appearance on Jimmy Fallon's late-night talk show 2 years ago.
Some people think it's cute while others think it's a little creepy.
Still, visitors get a kick out of his intriguing fashion sense.
I believe he's worn a conductor's hat, he's worn a snow hat, he's of course worn a Christmas star. So occasionally Woody likes to mix it up, but this year, it's a top hat.
A maritime tradition with the community rooting to see him again next year.
Well, thanks so much for coming to see me.
Chris Najikatape, CTV News, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Clearly, Woody's a very popular tree indeed. And that is a snapshot of this Monday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching, and good night.